Hello and welcome to this month's Project Home DIY. I'm Christine, the owner and curator of Project Home. So happy you joined us this month. I've already got everything unpacked and there's so much stuff to do. I can't eat, and options and choices. It's going to be hard to decide, but there's lots of possibilities and I'm excited to see all of your creations. So if you're brand new with us, you will have a starter kit in your box. It comes with the essential tools that you will need for this month's project. So make sure that you get out those items and get the hot glue gun plugged in because you will need it later on. Then we have our reusable stencil. These are reusable and you'll see it's kind of all Mod Podge together, but just keep in mind you can cut these. So cut them up. They're meant to be cut up. They're meant to be separated in pieces and they are reusable. So have your tray of water next to you, and when you get done with a piece, rinse it off and let it dry, and then put the sticky backing back together. That's how those work. Then we have our 3 books, and they have these awesome nice edges. They look like books, not just blocks. I love that little detail. Then we have our 8-inch round that has a nice little stand and perfectly little cut bottom to stand it up just nicely. Then we have jute or twine, whatever you want to call it, and some ribbon, a rolling pin, our paint, and some hearts, our boxwood, and the tin. So let's get started with painting the base pieces first, because those are going to take the longest to get going, which would be this stuff. Okay, and as an added optional thing, if you want, I'm going to stain a couple of the pieces just to add an additional touch into it. And so if you do want and have stain, go ahead and get that out, be ready to stain. I like to use Rust-Oleum in dark walnut color. It's my favorite, that's my preference. So I have that little guy ready to go. And other than that, I shouldn't need anything. So I'm going to quickly paint just the surface of this guy. I'm going to leave the back nice, but I will paint the sides and the front surface white. I'm going to paint my 3 books white as well. If you have other colors you choose to use, you may do that. Either way, there's going to be so many possibilities with all of this. So let's get started. Okay, I'm gonna let those dry for a second. I do place my wood items in a small space heater to dry, and I will show you that because I do have people asking what I use. It's this little old junky thing. It's kind of funny, but it works well, and it just speeds up the drying process, and we don't have to wait so long for it to dry. So you probably hear it too, but this is it. Just blows out warm air. So I like to put my stuff in front of that because it makes it dry just that much faster. I did have plenty of paint for painting all 3 of those pieces white. I prefer to have a lighter coat. I did do those pretty thick, but I still like it when the wood grain shows through a little bit because I just like the look of the wood grain, and then I'll sand it off as well. Make sure that you have your sanding pad out of your kit because you will be using it as well, so get that ready. But let me check our round. Yeah, so that bugger's already good and dry. So absolutely critical to using the stencils. Before you do that, make sure that you sand whatever thing you are putting a stencil on. These are sticky, they do have to adhere. There's a few reasons that you can get leakage underneath, and that is when it's not sticking to the surface 100% well, or too much paint, or too thin of paint. So those are the reasons why you would not have a crisp, clean stencil come up. So just be careful when you are doing that, that you are working with a smooth, nice surface. So I'm gonna sand a little bit. I got a little bit of paint on the back side. I'm gonna sand that off so it just looks nice and finished. And then I'm gonna sand around the edges and on the surface, and in preparation to stencil on there. Okay, it is all sanded, nice and cleaned up on the back side from any mess ups on the back. And my front is nice and smooth. You can tell a big difference in that. Your paint is obviously a liquid, so there's moisture in it. Any moisture will pull wood grain up, and so that's why surfaces get rough when you paint them. So it's really important that between layers of paint or coats of paint or your final project that you sand, so you break down those grains of little pieces of wood that have come up. So for mine, I'm going to do This Is Our Story. And I know this doesn't apply to everyone, but it could be your home's story. It could be your family's story. It can be any way that you want to make it fit you. But if you don't choose that, you can also do Farm Sweet Farm. So kind of a farmhouse fun theme. I did include the established and the numbers just as a fun way to be able to add an established date. And those will be a little bit tricky, but I think they'll be super fun to be able to do it. I will show you how I'm going to do those. I'm just going to do our year that our family began. And then I'm going to do, oh, this is hard to decide. On the books, what do I want to do? I think I'm going to do Faith, Hope, Love. So I'm just going to cut these out. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options for the books. Holy cow. You have 2 options for the round, and so many others. You can actually even cut apart pieces and piece in whatever you want. So if you want blessed, family, and love, or blessed, family, hope, or blessed, faith, family, hope, whatever you want, you can take 3 words and make it yours. And then these hearts are not meant to be right there. They're meant to be cut out and used elsewhere. So don't feel like they are stuck where they are in the stencil. Those are to be used elsewhere, wherever you feel you want to put them. So I'm going to start with This Is Our Story. Make sure that you are looking at, this is the bottom where the logo is, and which they look so good. Doesn't that logo look amazing? We work with the best vendors. I only expect the best for you guys and design the best stuff for you guys. So it doesn't surprise me, but it still does because it is pretty nice. All right, so I'm going to place this stencil on here. Sorry, I removed it from the backing. Save that backing piece if you want to reuse your stencil. If you don't, just toss it. I have thousands of them, so I will be just tossing mine. If you want to reuse it, make sure that after you put paint on this, you place it in water, rinse it off, let it dry, put it back on this background. Okay, so when I'm placing this stencil, I'm looking at the lines in the wood through the mesh stencil. So I find, looking at Our Story, and you can see that Our Story is all mumbo jumbled, but the R's are the same height. So I can right now see the top of the R's, the line through the top of the R's, and then I'm going to bring my stencil line just a little bit down past that, and run my finger through there, and I can see that I need to come down on this side a little bit, This is just to make it straight. So you don't want this as our story and it to be crooked on there. So the top distance of the R's, I'm looking at the same. This side needs to come down just a tad bit more. So pull that side and straighten out that side. Here I run my finger across. That looks about right. You can also, that would probably be the easiest way for you to make sure that it is straight. So once you have it in place, I see from the Y to the O is pretty good. From the edge of the T, we're pretty good. If you get off-centered and if you totally fubub it up and you don't love it, peel it off, rinse it, wash it off if your paint hasn't dried, which you totally can do, and start over. If you let your paint fully dry, sand it down. You gotta get really into it to get this black paint now off, but it can be done. Okay, so I did avoid putting our story over the lines because I'd rather use the line as a guide for me. But the T and the H is over a line in the wood. Be very careful when you're putting your paint on that you don't glop it in that trough right there, or else it will fill with paint and you won't like the look of it. So just make sure it's real light. My tape is not here. Let me grab some tape. Okay, if you have tape left over from the lantern project last month, you can use that. And I just like to tape off a little bit on these stencils just to keep the area cleaner, and I don't have to be so careful with my paint. So you can tape off, you don't have to. Okay, I am ready to begin the black. You can choose a different color if you also want. You don't have to use the black, but I just thought they were super pretty contrasty colors. So here it is. It's pretty dark. It's called Tuxedo. Okay, remember, the reason why stencils leak too thin of paint, this is a good consistency. Don't water it down. If you're using a different paint, just make sure consistency is about the same. Not smooth surface. So if the stencil can't adhere secure or enough, then it will leak underneath. And number 3, too much paint. So less is more. When I'm using this, you can see my brush is barely soaked right here. There's not big blobs of paint on it. I'm going to go ahead and paint until I can't see through that letter anymore. And sometimes, and you can see I do have my brush up like this, and you can poke in there like that. You can also check out one of the spots, and it makes it much easier when you do have this on, but peel it up just a little bit and look at your stencil, see how it's going, and you can put that right back down. Obviously you don't want to rub back over that, but it looked good, so all my edges looked clean and crisp, so I'm going to keep going. Okay, here's the trough. I don't want to fill it. Okay, one good nice coat back over. Make sure I can't see any of the spots. And I'm going to double check it. Oops. I did get a little bit up here. I'm going to wipe it off. Okay, now I'm peeling my whole stencil up. Ta-da! Oh my gosh. You guys, I always get so excited because I have these ideas in my mind, and this is literally the first time I'm making this project. I don't have another one of these made. I'm making it with you on the spot as we go on the fly. And I get so excited because it's finally out of my head and it turns into a real thing. Look, it's a real thing and I love it. Look at that. Okay, when I did wipe that paint up there, or yeah, I wiped a little paint off of that. I did wipe some of the ivory off, and I'm going to touch it up just really quick. But look, it's amazing. Looks so good. You guys should be so proud of yourselves too, because you're making your own home decor. Like, forget about going and buying the same old stuff everybody has. Like, this is you. This is yours. So, sorry. I'm super excited I get to finally see stuff to come together. I'm going to put the established date at the bottom of this. This is going to be tricky. It's not going to be much fun. What year did we get married? Oh, 2009. Holy cow. So I need the 2 and the O and the 9. And I'm going to have to use them twice. So that should be fun. Okay. Established. And I'm a little close on the edges because, again, we have to reuse these stencils and we put a bunch on one page, so there's not tons of extra room. If you have a smaller paintbrush, you could totally use a smaller paintbrush. I'm just using the edge. Okay, there's my established. Okay, and then I'm going to let that dry just so I don't mess it up putting a number next to it. Actually, no, I'll go ahead and do the 2. And I'm just eyeballing these. I did purposely pick uneven numbers. You can see that some of the numbers are bigger than one another, they're smaller. I did that on purpose so it wouldn't have to be so precise. So don't worry about them perfectly lining up. Farmhouse stuff is messy. I mean, think about it. It's on a farm. It's messy. So it's supposed to look rustic. It's supposed to look uneven. It's supposed to look worn. And that's okay. Okay, I have to use the 0 twice. Okay, I'm gonna wait a minute on that. So I'm gonna just set it to the side because I don't want to get too close to my 2 and mess it up. Okay, we're ready for the books. And what did I decide? I'll decide in a second. Okay, but here's my books, and I do need to sand them. So I will do that really quickly. Get all my paint out of the way so I don't get a bunch of dust in it. Okay, I'm going to sand these really quickly. Just mainly sand the edges and the front surface, obviously where we're going to put some wording and stencils, needs to be nice and smooth. Look how pretty the logo looks painted. I love it. Okay, so I'm going to sand the edges and get those in. They're ready to go. I do like the edges to show a little bit, so I did sand a little bit more. So the edges of the wood shows up and comes through. I like a thinner coat. You could do, you could paint the inside so the pages are a darker color. That would look really pretty, just a nice contrast. You can totally do that. You could stain the books first and then put your white over it, and that creates a really super pretty contrast. We'll be doing that on next month's project, which I can't wait for. I'm looking at it right now. It's right over there. If only I could just turn the screen. Okay, so our books are ready. I'm gonna paint my 0 because my 2 is dry now. There it is. That is the wood round so far. Look how cute. I didn't paint the wrong side. That's a good start. Okay, books. Let's see. What do I want to do? Okay. Okay, I'm just going to pick Faith, Hope, Love. I like the wording love, and I'm going to place it on the right side of the book. And again, if you're using, you can use a smaller paintbrush, make it a little bit easier on this small stuff. Use different colors if you want. I chose these darker ones. There it is. So there's the first one. My stencils I don't keep. Again, if you're going to keep yours, which it's kind of hard to when they are cut into a bunch of little pieces, but it's totally doable. Just rinse it off. I kind of want family in there. So I'm going to cut that apart. I'm going to put family in there. So just pick things that are important to you. There is my 3 books. I chose Faith, Family, Love just for those pieces. And you can then take these little hearts and you can totally put one on the end. And if you want, you could do on the family one an established date when you became a family, and to some that's when you have kids. There's adding in a heart. And we also have the same little wood hearts, and we have our wood rolling pin. For the rolling pin and the wood hearts, I wanted to stain them, so I'm going to do that really quick. And I don't like getting stain on me, so I always like to wear gloves. So if this is something you choose to do, you don't have to stain them. I just want that look, that added dimensional brown in there. And just to show you how to vary it a little bit outside of the box that we give you. But if you have stain, you can use it if you choose. And for the rolling pin, I'm just gonna do the ends. So, where'd my tape go? There it is. I'm going to tape off, let's see. Tape off the wood pin part so I can keep that white. And I'm just going to stain this little end piece. stain, it will take very little. If you've been with us for a few months, there's probably past projects you have some from. You can also take even this black paint that you got from us in this project and water it down, and it will create a stained look as well. So that's another fun option to be able to do. Okay, those pieces are stained. That is all done. Let them set for a minute and dry. I like these little guys. They're turning out perfect. Okay, I'm going to close my paint just a little bit. I'll get back to it in a minute. When I paint the rolling pin. And I'm going to put the boxwood together, which is just meeting together the two pieces. Okay. And it just goes right on top of the tin. And it's kind of just a nice little green frilly accent piece. Super cool thing. You can add more wording onto the tin if you want as well. So if there's words that you wanted to use, or even just put hearts on it, you can do that with your stencils. That is another way to make this a 100% unique item of yours. The last thing, besides finishing up the rolling pins and stuff, is creating just some little embellishment bows. I'm going to show you a fun little way to create these messy, easy little bows. So I'm not going to make a very big one because I'm going to put it right here on that corner. And so I'm going to take about 3 or 4 inches of the ribbon, and I will dovetail these. So just fold it in half and cut in towards the center, and that makes that nice little dovetail, or ducktail, whatever, duck, dove, bird thing, flying thing, tail. Okay, so I like that. And I'm going to do that a couple times, and it doesn't matter if they're not exactly the same length, and if they're not, it'll give it more dimension as well. And then I'm going to take some twine, and about the same length, I'm going to cut a bunch of pieces. If one becomes too long, that's okay, short won't matter. Okay, and then I'm going to need one to tie it. So I'm just going to layer this. Set it right there. Take the piece you're going to tie together, put it underneath, center it, and tie that in a knot. Just like that. I'm going to trim some of these so they're not so long. And then if you even want to untwist some of the jute, it will make even more wispy little things. Okay, so there's my little ribbon, and I'm going to attach it right in there, just with hot glue. My glue's been on for a while. It's really nice and hot, so be careful. The good thing about being able to attach it is if I don't like where something is or placed, I can hot glue it into place and make it stay there. So if you want this to spread out a little bit further, if it's not staying where you want it to, just tack it up there with the glue. So spread these out. Adds the perfect little touch. You can wrap some of your books in twine if you would like, or the whole stack. I kind of like the staggered look of the stack, and so I don't want to put the twine all the way around it, so I'm just going to put it around one of them, and not too much because I still want the book to sit flat. I'm going to start this on the bottom side. And this could be my top piece, so I can make it look nice and fancy. Okay, and then when I finish, I just put some glue where I started and glue where I finished. Let it cool a second. I did lick my finger first. That's my favorite tip ever. Lick your finger and the hot glue won't stick. Not saying it won't be hot, not saying it won't burn you, but it won't stick to your finger. Cut that in. And there's a little bit of an accent right there. Okay, another super cute little way to make an easy bow. Let's take some of the black and white ribbon. Just fold in, I have about an 8-inch piece or so. I'm going to fold in both edges. And then I'm going to glue there. Again, careful, hot glue will seep through, so be careful when pressing that down. Okay, and then take another smaller piece. And just put that smaller piece in the center. Actually, I'm going to do a couple of them. No, I'm going to put some of these in the middle. Kind of like that, but a little bit different. Okay, I just hot glued those pieces down. This is my front side, so I'm going to flip it over. Take this piece, put it in, and I'm going to tie this so it gathers. Okay, I just fluffed it up a little bit, added those tight edges, and there's our second bow. Our rolling pin should be all finished. Okay, here's our little stained pieces. I'm going to paint the rolling pin with ivory real quick. I'm going to tape off the handles just to keep them clean. Okay, our rolling pin is done. Just peeling off the tape. There it is. Oops, my fingers were a little dirty. Okay, I'm going to sand it really quick so I can put wording on it. Okay, just going to stencil the word on here. I chose hope, kind of goes with my theme. So this feels right today. There's the hope. I'm going to make just a tiny little bow. And I think the way I'm going to do it is tying around something as if I was tying my shoe. Okay, with the hearts, I'm just going to add a tiny bit of glue. Just attach it to the front of the tin. Just for a little extra touch. You can do all you want with yours and lots of options. Just going to set that little ribbon there for the time being till I decide where I want it and how to finish it. But that's it for this month. So next time, make sure you join us for a brand new project, and be sure to join our VIP Facebook group where you can share these projects when you get them finished and also see lots of awesome ideas from the other VIP group members. We also have some really cool VIP only projects that come out that are only available to people in that group. So if you love what you do, join us there and we'll add more. Thanks and see you next time.